Hi, my name is Jenny Sanchez, and I will be presenting my population and health education intervention presentation. This is for nurs447. So we're going to start with the health-related issues. I decided to do my population level health education in Tahunga, which is a city I grew up in. For the health-related issues in Tahunga, there's adolescent health, nutrition, obesity, hypertension, access to services, educational and community-based programs. The population in Tahunga is 27,585. There is 13.4% living below poverty level. 72% are white, 26% are Hispanic and Latino, 29% are unemployed. Also, there's low-rated LAUSD schools, one of them being Plainview Academic Charter, which is rated 3 out of 10, and that is where I did my intervention education on these health-related issues. Background and significance. African American children are at higher risk for developing hypertension. Tahunga is part of the San Fernando Valley, and according to the public health, 22.5% of the population reported being diagnosed with hypertension, which is about 300,000 individuals. Of the 22.5%, 37% are African American and 25.9% are Latinos. Latino diets are generally known to be high in salt, carbohydrates, sugar, and saturated fats, and African American diets usually consist of leafy greens, corny, starchy vegetables, grains, fried meats, whole milk, and buttermilk. The school that I decided to do my education on, it is primarily more African American and Latinos, so that is why I chose to talk about nutrition and hypertension there. The Healthy People 2020 objectives, nutrition and weight status, promote health and reduce chronic disease risk through the consumption of healthful diets and achievement and maintenance of healthy body weights, heart disease and stroke, improve cardiovascular health and quality of life through prevention, detection, and treatment of risk factors for heart attack and stroke, early identification and treatment of heart attacks and strokes, prevention of repeat cardiovascular events, and reduction in deaths from cardiovascular disease, adolescent health, improve the healthy development, health, safety, and well-being of adolescents and young adults, and education on community-based programs, increase the quality, availability, and effectiveness of educational and community-based programs designed to prevent disease and injury, improve health, and enhance quality of life. These all correspond to the elementary school that I chose. Nutrition and weight status for, hypertension, obesity, and just nutrition education. Heart disease and stroke, living a healthier lifestyle starts at a early age, which is also part of the adolescent health, healthy people objectives, and that all just correlates to educating these children on a healthier lifestyle to prevent chronic illnesses such as hypertension. Needs assessment. For the needs assessment, we did the windshield survey. I did find some research articles and I also did the interviews. For the windshield survey, I chose Tahunga and La Crescenta, which are neighbor communities, and I was able to compare and contrast both of them. And I chose Tahunga because it's where I grew up, and I know what it's like to not have these resources, to be in school and not have these community-based resources, and to not be educated on just a healthy diet. The interviews, I was able to interview the stakeholders and also community members. There was the school nurse for Plainview Academic Charter who says there isn't much children with hypertension, but he does see that the parents are the ones that pack their lunch, and they're the ones, that have all these snacks like chocolates and chips. He said that they don't necessarily have hypertension, but sometimes they do check the kids' blood pressures just as an educational thing for the students. There was also somebody else who said she wishes there was more resources in the community, that there's a lack of resources and one must go far to seek help. There isn't much community programs in Tahunga. There's not much clinics. So to even get education or even go to a clinic, you have to drive 15, 20 minutes for anything like that. The pre-seed and proceed model. So for pre-seed, phase 1, defining the ultimate outcome, which is to raise awareness of hypertension and nutrition to these children and their families. identifying the issue, poor eating habits, and knowledge deficit. Predisposing factors, genetics, lifestyle, knowledge deficit, all combined into the same things. Barrier identification, lack of knowledge, low income, the community, Tahunga itself is a barrier. For the proceed model, we have implementation, which would be the interactive education with the families and with the children and the families. For the process evaluation, I decided to do a pre-test, one for the kids and one for the adults to know where they were at, how much they know about hypertension, how much they know about the nutrition part of it. And for impact evaluation, I'd also decided to do a post-test both for the family, for the children, and for the adults to see what they learned from our lesson. Are they able to know what hypertension is, what nutrition is, and what they can do and adopt into their lifestyle so they can prevent from getting hypertension. And for outcome evaluation, short-term goal would be what is hypertension and how does nutrition affect it. A long-term would be to adopt a healthier lifestyle, both at school as well at home, because it all starts at home. Issues. Tahunga, for barriers, I chose, the low income. Those low income families are the ones not able to afford a healthier lifestyle. McDonald's is a cheaper alternative. So they go to that. Lack of resources, like I said, there's not a lot of community programs, there's not a lot of educational programs, there's not a lot of places for the parents to go and get education on these nutrition, on hypertension, or different chronic illnesses. Lack of knowledge. A lot of these families are, didn't go to school, didn't graduate. There are a lot of first generation students who, unfortunately, like their parents, don't know English well, and not knowing English can also be another barrier. Low education levels, a lot of them just work. The parents have not graduated high school, they haven't gone to college, so they're unaware of what all these chronic illnesses are and what they can do to help their children in the long run. And also their lifestyle, like I said, it starts at home. Latino families, African American families, they're used to just, eating high sugar foods, high in sugar, high in fats, a lot of carbs. As for assets, there is a neighborhood council, which can be helpful for the community. There is a YMCA, and they do have classes there, but most of the time you have to pay for them. They're not free. There's churches who offer a lot of help to the community, and there's a lot of families who are actually part of members of the churches, and that's where they get most of their help from. There is a library. They also offer different classes at the library, but most of them are not bilingual, and that can be a problem. And there is after-school programs, which can be helpful for the students, and they can, sometimes get different education there through the after-school programs that are available at the different schools. So for interventions, I chose to do Plainview Academic Charter Elementary School. The population there that I did my interventions on were the children of ages 7 to 10 and their parents. I talked about the Healthy People 2020 objectives, which many of them did not know what they were about because, like I said, lack of knowledge, lack of education, lack of resources. Reinforcing the importance of these objectives and how they can affect their life in the future if, they don't take the important steps to change their lifestyle. Diet teaching, healthier food choices, different oils, more vegetables, more fruits. Disease teaching. A lot of them don't know what high blood pressure is. They don't, periodically go get their physical. They don't periodically go check their blood pressure. Some don't even know if they have hypertension or not. Again, that just leads to, lack of insurance, lack of knowledge, lack of resources here. So disease teaching on hypertension was very important. I decided to do a PowerPoint for the students and for their families. It was very informative on hypertension, hypertension and on nutrition. What is hypertension? How does it affect your body? What can prevent it? What can you do in your life to be preventative in the future? Also, nutrition. Why is nutrition so important? Why are fruits and vegetables so important? My Plate was a great thing to incorporate into that, to teach the kids and their families of how important fruits and vegetables are. I also, as well, I did handouts that they can take home. For the children, I did infographics that showed, hypertension in a way that they would be able to understand. How exercising can be important, how it can, prevent further stuff in their life, and also fruits and vegetables, how important they are. Just a healthier lifestyle, healthier diet can really make a big difference in their in their life later on. And I did handouts for the parents as well, which had information on the same hypertension and on nutrition, but it was a little bit more more descriptive, more informative, so they can take home and actually take something from it. Most of my audience was Hispanic, so primarily they were Spanish speaking. I do speak Spanish, so I was able to make the handouts in both Spanish and English, but I know sometimes that can be a problem for those who aren't able to speak Spanish, because then they won't be able to learn anything either. As for budget, I think the community needs more educational classes. If it could be free classes at the library, they have free classes for other things. School-based programs, the after-school programs are great, but they do not have education on nutrition, education on healthier stuff. They just have, sports and arts and crafts, dance. Bilingual classes, I think, is very important for the city of Tahunga, just because a lot of these families are Latino and they only speak Spanish. Currently, there is no budget. There isn't any class. There's no classes around the city of Tahunga that offers more education on chronic illnesses, on preventative healthier lifestyle, on preventative measures, or on nutrition. As for me, I only had to do the printouts, which is only about $10, but I think for a long-term estimated cost would be $30,000 to $40,000. It doesn't necessarily have to be a nurse to have these teachings, but I do think somebody needs to be educated on these measures, and even just having a class 1 to 2 times a week per school. There's seven elementary schools here in Tahunga. And if one person can go to these schools twice a week for an hour and just educate them on the importance of healthier lifestyles and chronic illnesses, I think it would really make a big difference. So that's why I estimated about $30,000 to $40,000. You need to train somebody, and then they would go to the different schools and educate the children and their families. Project evaluation. Do the children and their parents understand what is hypertension and effect nutrition can have? So for the pre-test and the post-test, they were provided to measure the understanding. 10 children were part of the audience, and 8 parents. So for short term, that's what I was able to use the pre and the post-test to see how much they understood and how much it took from my lesson. And as for long term, I think more continued classes would be necessary, and checking in once a month and just evaluating the choices they're making at school as well at home. Like I said, a lot of these families, their parents are the ones who make their lunch, and they're the ones that provide their school at lunch. So being able to see, like, okay, are they picking strawberry instead of chocolate? Are they packing carrots instead of chips? That would be more of a long-term way to evaluate if the lesson if they did take something from the lesson that was provided for them. Results. So for the pre-test, before the lesson, the children 20% answered the questions correctly, and then for the parents, 30% answered the questions correctly. Post-test, the kids got 10 of the children answered all the questions correctly, and for the parents, it was 80%. I think the percentage of 80% would have to do maybe also with the bilingual aspect of it. I'm not 100% fluent in Spanish, but I did try my best. But sometimes I know that can be a problem. And learning something new. If it's in your language, of course you're gonna understand. But when it's not, it's a little bit harder. I think in all the children and the families were able to take something from my lesson and gain some knowledge to help them in the future. They were able to tell me what hypertension is, what the healthier lifestyle choices are, and what they can do to prevent chronic illnesses such as hypertension in the future, and how nutrition can affect it. These are my references, and that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.